All right, everybody, welcome to Embrace the Weight. This week, we're all in quarantine, so why not talk about strength in quarantine? We're all here, going to talk about working out at home, what you can do to stay fit, what you can do to stay active, maybe different ways that you can build equipment or things to enhance what you have around you to use. I'm joined with these three gentlemen here, and who wants to start the debate today?
You know what, Cory? I think you should start, and I think you should start by telling us all about your stones that you love so much.
Boy. So,
where did you get
started my passion with my stones is during quarantine was told not to go to work like a lot of other people. So I tried to find something to do because I go stir crazy, and I started pulling stones out of the dock space where I keep my jet ski because they bump into the bottom of them. It's not good. I stub my toe on them. It's annoying. And I pulled the first one out and realized how big and heavy it was, and I was like, oh, I should take these home and press them. That'd be kind of fun. And so I shuttled a couple of them back and forth, and as I was going back and forth, there was a house that was doing some construction. Recently did some blasting and opened up a big concrete or a big granite vein and has a ton of stones. So I approached him and I asked him, I said, hey, are you getting rid of all these stones? Because if you are, I'd love to take some of them home. He told me I could take as many as I could carry, as heavy as I could carry. So I now am the proud owner of 13 natural stones ranging from 170 pounds all the way down to a little 50-pounder for my wife to warm up with. It's pretty cool.
That's pretty sweet.
Just for your wife or for you as well?
Oh, I've used the 52. It's a fun little one-arm press. I mean, there's a lot of really weird things that you can do. We found one that is almost, well, not a perfect Husafel, but it's a good shield carry.
I saw that one.
20 pounds.
It's a good
really
weight.
Nice. Yeah, you can pick it up, take it, and walk it till you're tired instead of, I mean, I know it's not 250, 300-pound Husafel, heavy-ass stone, but if you walk with it far enough, it gets heavy.
You should try to throw the 50-pounder like as far as you can.
Like I would, but I love my stones, and I'm afraid that I would hurt them. The 50-pounder is like, I don't know. The 160, yeah, I could probably throw that, and nothing bad's gonna happen. I don't even know how to do that one.
Exactly.
I was gonna say, how far could you actually throw a 160-pound stone?
I could do this with it, and it goes about 2 feet. And then the rolls, if you count the roll distance, I get pretty good distance, if it's downhill.
You never got to count the roll.
Good hip thrust in it. Yeah.
Exactly. But speaking of the stones, I had an itch and I couldn't let it go. So I sat down and I drew up a diagram later on that evening of a way that I could build my own stone platform. Yeah, it's way too bright.
Yeah,
so
we cannot
unfortunately,
see that.
you're not going to be able to see that. But
your lights are too good, Cory.
They're too bright. I don't have them on a dimmer. But anyway, I worked it all out, did the math. I am not a mathematician. Really bad at math. I mean, if you guys watch the videos that I did with Rob, you all know I suck at math. So yeah, there's that. I'm not a carpenter, so that was also a thing that was against me. But I built a platform, and it
looks pretty level too.
And it looks pretty decent. It looks level. I like that you said it looks level because it looks level. Is it level? No.
Your backyard doesn't look level. Your backyard doesn't look level.
No, the backyard is not. I'm gonna have to build a platform for that, but. Just to get everybody started here, it's like you don't have to go out and spend a ton of money. You don't have to go out and buy the newest of the new. Some gyms are letting people rent equipment and take it home and use it. A lot of box gyms are doing that. Other people are going out and finding ways like stones and other things to, use in your yard and lift with. What are some of the things that you guys are doing at home?
If you do have a small gym,
stones as well. I have a couple natural stones. I've started doing those. I still have barbells and I have tires that I'm using. I have a big tire I've been meaning to flip, and I think I can get it now, but working towards that. Doing some tire throws overhead. I saw that.
Those are fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that on Instagram, and I was like, oh, I have some car tires. I can just.
Oh, that's a good idea. I have 4 car tires too.
Yeah, so I have those. I did get sucked into purchase. I did purchase a couple items. I've been wanting to, so I actually I did buy a log, and
nice. That's a good investment.
And I bought a safety squat bar just because there are 2 items.
That's awesome. Those are great.
Yeah, those are great. Strong,
it's just 2 items where I'm like, you know what? I have a basement gym and I have room. It's not like I have small area.
logs are not as expensive as barbells. Not nearly as expensive as barbells, and that's ridiculous. Like,
and I have a couple natural logs too that I'm going to make log presses, but I actually because Cory inspired me, I'm probably going to do some carries with those. They're 160 pounds a piece. I'm probably going to do some carries with those and try to get them up on my shoulder, do like a log to shoulder thing and kind of walk with it and do some things there.
Lumberjack carry.
Yeah, basically, just gonna do some stuff with that. I have some of this natural stuff, so but that's what I'm gearing my programming towards that, just because it's like I have these items, I'm gonna use them, and I'm not gonna not lift while I'm stuck at home and all the gyms are closed everywhere. I think that's it's really inspiring too, because a lot of people are doing that now, and I think that's awesome because you do see it. I mean, I use Instagram and you see it. People are just finding ways, and it's incredible to see it happen. Like even some big name people.
Yeah, like everybody's finding a way to work out without their normal equipment, and it just shows awesome. There's no excuses.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for people's ingenuity and just sticking with it. I mean, there are people out there that are complaining their gym is closed, and there's a lot of people out there that are closed-minded, and I hope today, if they take a chance to listen or watch this podcast, it gives them a chance to spark their imagination, spark their mind of different things that you can do at home. I mean, hell, if you want to get as cheap as take a milk jug, a gallon milk jug, fill it up with water or rocks, dumbbell, there you go.
Yep.
Press it, curl it, whatever. I see all kinds of really weird and ingenuitive things that people are doing. And I really hope that everybody takes this to heart and gets back to the roots of strength training, and tries to find a way to do all this stuff and stay active, don't get caught up in the moment and try to use this as a way to embrace the fact that you're stuck at home and you need to stay home. So, this can pass. We can all go back to the gym and the beach and doing all the fun stuff that we want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's been interesting seeing all the fitness Instagrammers doing like at-home workouts, because it doesn't really take that much to do an at-home workout. Like the stuff at the gym is just to make things easier. It's to make the movements a little bit simpler and add a little bit more weight, but otherwise you can do all the same movements and you can overload them in different ways. Like one of the ones I found that was really fun was banded overhead squats. Take a band, a relatively large one, put it between your feet, hold it over your head with whatever it is, put your hands up, and then just do fucking squats with it. Way harder than
those as warm-ups for log.
Way harder than it seems, because it also, you'll notice you'll be in the same line because your body kind of has to be on that line of the band. And it actually kind of it helped me realize a better mobility for my front squat, actually, for my legs, a better leg position. So that was just something I was messing around with, and I was like, oh, that really fucking worked.
That's awesome.
It lit up my stabilizers and my shoulders too. Like it was all sorts of good.
Yeah. Oh, man, it sounds like it's a good one.
Just
what about you, Keldo?
Like that.
Yeah. My gym put up a notice to say that they were renting out the equipment, so everybody made a mad dash to get barbells, and I thought to myself, what I could use would be a log rather than use barbells. So we've got the small 30 kilos, which is 66 pounds. It's almost like a training log, but you can do hip thrusts, RDLs, squats with it, Zercher squats. There's a whole list of things you can do with just a small training log, and I can use it indoors as well. So I've got 100 kilos worth of plates coming with it and the log, which means I can max out overhead. I can do RDLs, which keeps my hamstrings activated, and just various like bent over rows. I can do floor press for chest. So basically I went for the most obscure thing in the gym that nobody would want, because I knew everybody was going to go, oh, let me have a barbell. I was like, well, if I can use something else, it means I don't need to take a barbell off somebody who can use it, and I keep my hand in with the movements I need when it comes to competition time with regards to a log press or something similar.
And that's the cool thing about this time is that you can use this to not only exercise your body, but you can exercise your mind. like you're saying, like all these ingenuitive ways. Keep using that word. Wow, I need to find a different word. But like all these really awesome different ways that you're using this one piece of equipment to your advantage to do all these different workouts. And I think that's something big that people need to take away from this is trying to find a different way. Like I've got a barbell, I've made myself a makeshift axle bar. And there's so many different things that you can do with both of those. You can work grip with this one, and you can do all the exact same things that you would do with just this bar here. But it's nice to have that to work the grip, and you can do a lot of different things. And yeah, it's all about using everything differently.
I have a rolling handle that I use for grip that I brought home from my gym. I didn't get any weights, but I got a band, and so I was using that for both holds, pick it up and hold it, and then I was also doing rows with it. And with the band doubled over, the rows were definitely hard enough, and it taxed my grip because the higher it gets, the more band tension there are, and the harder it is on my grip. So I kind of had to find movements that extended the band a little bit more to really get a lot of weight on it because it is a relatively light band. But if you double it up, those bands they're resistant. They'll stretch a long way.
As well was grabbing a couple of bands from the gym because I can then set it up almost like a deadlift. So I don't have as much weight as I need. But if I put the band underneath it, I know the grip's slightly different, but the movement is the same in effectiveness. So I can create that extra bit of resistance. I can put the band behind my back and do quick press from the floor as well and do a bit of speed work. So the bands are going to be super helpful for people. Really are in this time because it's something people maybe neglect as well, is how much you can get from a band.
Yeah, the bands are all sold out too on a lot of the fitness websites. There's still a few places you can get them.
On a lot of fitness sites.
Yeah. There's still a few places, but like that was one of the first things to sell out because they are so versatile. I think just in general, for in the future, if you ever have a time where you can't get to the gym, buy some bands after this is over, because I think those are probably the number one thing that is the most versatile to get overload training outside of the gym.
Bands are nice. I have a couple bands that I actually today I added holes to my rack so I could do more with it because I built a rack out of wood a while ago and I added some holes to do a couple different lifts out of it, and I had my bands there and I'm like, well, this is something. So I actually grabbed my bands, was kind of dicking with them to try to figure out something I could do with those as well. I mean, yeah, Keldo, I'm going to steal some of your ideas since I just bought a log. I'm stealing some of that stuff because that was
logs
super informative.
Bands on log is really good because of how far you have to stretch them. They'll give you a ton of overload on log.
I really wish I had a log. I'm so jealous.
Yeah,
that's one thing that I would buy if I had the extra money. I would definitely buy a log. I'd buy a Pitbull log too, by the way. Just putting it out there. Pitbull, some of the best logs.
I'll have to look at those because that's the one thing probably the first piece of equipment I would buy after some dumbbells because I'm gonna buy that next. Just a few like 35, 40, 45, and I can pretty much hit a lot of dumbbell movements with those and add fat grips and hit a lot more. So that's another thing I'm going to invest in.
If anybody has a keg out there that doesn't want it, I need it. I don't want what's in it. I want the actual container.
Yeah, good luck with that. Kegs are like $40 a piece. People don't want to
I know. It's because all these damn home brewers now.
Yeah, it really is. The craft breweries and
leave it to us that want to use it for strength. You can get drunk with it, and then we can get fit with it. Just
you can make more kegs. You can make more kegs. Like let us use it for. We're only going to use it once. We're only going to fill it once. We're not going to refill it. Just fill it once, and we're just going to throw it around.
Throw it around.
Yep,
that's right. That's right.
Because the log, because the log I've got so light, I can also do bicep and tricep work with it as well.
Yep.
That's cool.
So because you can do bicep curls with it because it's small and light, and overhead behind the head bicep tricep work as well. So they when you're saying about getting one because they're versatile, if you get the right type, you can do so much with it. Generally can.
Hey, I'm gonna grab my band. I'm gonna show you guys something quick.
I got a 10-inch. I bought the 10-inch log, and I can still, because I've done that with the log at the gym that I go to. I can still do the behind the head triceps, and that's actually part of that. That helps with the lockout with the log too, because I'm working on that. I have a very.
Okay, so my first thing I love doing with the bands is I add fat grips to them, and they'll slide along the band really well. And you can do a lot of really interesting stuff with those. I like these because it's a little bit easier to grab than the band, for me at least. But overhead, and then I add this thing to it, and just whatever I add this to, just pull against it, and you're fucking golden. You can do wrist curls with any kind of rotating handle or any kind of thick bar. Wrist curls are really, really good, and a lot of things people kind of neglect, especially people who don't train grip separately. But I like grip, but that's me.
Which is why my little bar is going to be so cool. We had this axle bar made, and I think it came out of a 10-foot section, 10 or 12, and I had them cut it to 7 feet, and then we just took home the extra bit. And my wife was kind of playing around with it. She's like, well, what are we going to do with this? And I was like, I don't know. And she started curling it. And I was like, oh, that's a perfect little curl bar. And she goes, oh, yeah, we could build forearms with it, too. That was my wife. That wasn't me. I can't take credit for that. My wife is just as much into lifting shit as I am, just as dedicated, and she's going just as stir crazy without the gym as I am. So she's coming up with some crazy fun ways. So it's awesome having somebody else in the house that's just invested in it as you are, because it's a secondary point of view that you may not have. And I was just going to probably let that chunk of pipe sit outside and rust, and now I'm going to turn it into a tiny little curl bar. And that's going to be awesome.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I have another thing like that. So my buddy was talking about arm because I was talking about it a little bit, and he's like, I haven't arm wrestled in a while. I'd like to do that. And I was like, well, I'm a little bit stronger than him. I go to the gym, and he doesn't. But I have 2 grip tools. Add a band to them, add a little like pulley, and you can pull against somebody that's not necessarily experienced at arm wrestling, but you can use your buddy to not touch each other and still arm wrestle.
But are you going to be 6 feet away?
Yeah, you can. That's the whole point of the cable. Like, you can be as far away as you want.
You just got to make sure you have 6 feet of cable.
Exactly.
Yeah,
But no,
man, this
that
6-foot thing. Ugh.
it works really well because it's good to get training with this one as it rolls. Because if you just have a band, you can actually roll it up with your wrist. And I don't know, I love this thing with the band, like, more than I like it with weight. It's hard to explain.
That would be.
I would never have
take on it.
tried that without having been stuck at home with my gym closed. I never would have thought to add bands to this, but I'm finding it's really, really helpful, and it's really nice at training that stability and that extra range that I need for the wrist strike. So
I'm sure there's people out there that are saying, oh, but I'm freaking huge and you're not. So of course you can work out at home, but I can't. Well, to that person I say, hello, reps. Let's do a lot of them. Because I guarantee you can take that same, say, gallon jug full of water and just throw another 30 reps on it, and your arms will get just as burnt out as mine. It's just going to take you a little bit longer. So if you really like working out, that's good for you.
If you're that big, you probably aren't doing cardio like you should. So get some cardio in.
That's an awesome one. Yeah. How many of us are going to get in touch with our cardio side? I took a walk with my wife yesterday. It's close as I've gotten.
You kind of have to, because it's easier to do cardio than it is to do weightlifting in your home. If you don't have a home gym.
I hate cardio. I can't.
Yeah,
I agree with that. I can't. I hate it so much. I know I shouldn't. I am in the wrong side. I'm on the wrong people. Don't ever listen to me when it comes to
the
cardio.
majority.
Yeah, I know, and the majority of the world is wrong when it comes to that.
So
my wife is here. Just a second. What's up, sweetheart?
For cardio training, I think one of the things I will do, and today I wanted to go for a walk. It was pretty nice here. I wanted to go for a walk. Didn't go for the walk, but my kids are into sports and stuff, so I can go outside and kind of run around with them. That's like cardio, in my opinion, except it's sports related, so it's a lot easier to do.
And it's purposeful too, because you got to chase kids.
Yes. a little less boring, and I think that's why it's easier.
Yeah, cardio sucks.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm doing higher reps right now too, just because I mean I have enough weight in my gym that I could do some heavy stuff, except for deadlift. That's the only thing I can't go super heavy on. And I can still push my top set, but so I can still lift kind of heavy here at home, but I found that I'm gonna use this time, kind of like what you said, Matt. I'm gonna use this time to actually work on conditioning and do some cardio-esque stuff, just because one, it takes more time. You kind of feel a little better about it. So I'm actually using the time for conditioning type workouts now.
And as somebody who doesn't like to do cardio, for an advocate to say you should and agree with you guys, if you don't want to run, this is what I do: superset stuff.
Supersets.
Great cardio.
I love supersets.
I'm doing
I'll carry
giant
something
sets.
heavy.
That's
I'll
what
do
I'm
that.
doing.
I've seen people do giant sets and they look like they hate themselves.
Alzru loves giant sets. But I don't know. I don't have the intensity Alzru does.
Well, that's the program I'm following. Actually, is the giant sets thing, and it is the most humbling thing in the world. It is.
Yeah, giant supersets mess me up, and giant sets just. But I don't know. I love supersets. Not gonna lie, I love supersets. Last superset and last workout I did, I think I did 6 exercises and I superset each one of them, and they were intense. Like 1 leg jumps for 50 feet, and then switching legs and jumping back 50 feet.
You know what a really good workout is for at home? Weighing all the natural stones you just found. And all you have is a bathroom scale.
Rather than break.
So you're afraid of putting the stone onto it. So every time you weigh a stone, you have to be holding said stone, which is totally fine until it gets to about 130 pounds and up. And then it's kind of awkward to step up onto a scale and hold a stone perfectly still so you can weigh yourself.
Yeah.
That's a great workout. I would only suggest doing it once, though. Make sure you mark the stone afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that would be taxing. I personally can't pick up any stone and jump on a scale unless it's like a 50-pound stone. I think my scale goes up that high, but I can't pick up. I couldn't take a 160-pound stone and step on my scale because it'd be like, no.
Yeah, I don't know I'm not sure what to do with that. I was worried because I didn't know how high our scale went either. And when you pick up the stones and you bring them home, you have no clue what they weigh. None.
Yeah, you can
this
kind
one
of
was really hard to get into my lap, so I know it's really heavy. But you don't know how much of it's, a mixture of how awkward the stone is to pick up. It's not round. And then also like the texture of the stone. Like I got some stones that were like a quartz, so it's really smooth.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got other stone that was like a granite kind, and that's really tacky, really flat in areas, so it's easier to press. But the cool thing about them is I have some of them that are kind of like a trapezoidal shape, so the bottom is really great for pressing. But if you flip it over, then it becomes top heavy and a harder press because you have to press your hands inward. You can't hold the stone. So there's a lot of different ways that you can press the stones and shoulder the stones and load the stones that makes them more difficult, less difficult. So if you can't find a heavier stone, you can just find ways to load it to make it harder and stuff like that.
It's finding the balance point on the stones is what makes it that wee bit more fun as well. I mean, if you're doing it with an Atlas stone, you're genuinely finding that point as it rolls up you. But when you get it onto your chest, you're then struggling, thinking, right, if I press this, is it going to be steady enough when it gets overhead? So it's finding that fine balance point as well. I've got a block press in July, and somebody broke our concrete Husafell stone in the gym, and the top half of it weighs like just short of what I need. But it's because it's not like a totally weird shape, but because of the way it's broken, the balance point, it's almost like a front and back lift. So you can't get it directly on the sides, which makes it a wee bit more difficult.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So that stone that you have to press.
It's about finding the balance point. Is it?
How heavy is that stone you have to press for your competition?
The block one is 60 kilos, so it's that 100, just over 120 pounds, and it's a steel block, but we don't have one in the gym. So I've just said if they don't throw the broken stone out, I can continue to use it. So it basically only sits in the gym so I can use it. The guy that owns the gym, Peter's brilliant with me. He's basically said, well, if it's broken, it's still something we can use some way. So it weighs just over 50 kilos, so just over 100 pounds for the concrete block, which makes it just that it gives me that sort of. It's more about the clean, and because it's not like rectangle, it gives me a feeling of how the rectangle would be on my chest, and I get the press. It's not obviously to the max that I need, but at the end of the day, it's still, if I put in enough reps and get the motion down properly, it shouldn't be a hard thing to pick up an extra 5-10 kilos before July.
Well, yeah, and just having to deal with the fact that it's not even, and having to learn how to read the stone, which is half the fun of doing natural stones, figuring out how to pick it up the best way, but also just getting it on your chest and being able to press it like that. You're using so many more stabilizers. You're so much more engaged in your core and your shoulders and your back that when you're pressing an even load that has an easy grip point, it's just going to make that much easier.
Well, it's exactly like if you can press an Atlas stone, you can usually press a heavier natural stone, because Atlas stones, even though they're round, they're actually really hard to press because of the grip is so tight. And you have to squeeze it together. Whereas like if you have a block, it's going to be this. It's going to be the exact same length, and you don't have to squeeze anything. Your hands are kind of want to be in that position anyway, so it's much easier. So I think that's a really good way to train for a block if you don't have one, is to train a lighter but harder stone.
That's why I like that quartz stone that I found. I think it's the 88-pound one. It's kind of round, and it doesn't really have any facets on it, so it's all smooth quartz, and you have to like squeeze it and with your fingertips really spread your hands apart to be able to press it overhead.
See, I need to get more natural stones.
I'm trying to figure out stuff to do with my chair and my rolling handle and my bands. That's kind of like arm wrestling, and this isn't too bad. But
so for anybody who's out there that wants to do natural stones and you don't want to bring them home, or you don't have anywhere to keep them, you're saying, I live in an apartment. Where the hell am I supposed to put them? Go for a hike. Go out to a wooded area. Take a pair of gloves with you if you don't want to mess with the bugs, that weirds you out. Whatever. Go out there, get the stone out of the dirt, put it in your lap, pick it up, and put it overhead. Do whatever you want to do with it. Like, go hike. I've had some of my friends say that to me, like, oh man, I really wish I could have some natural stones at home. And I'm like, you might not be able to have them at home, but you can go out to a place and play with them. Find them. Yeah. I mean, maybe not right now during the whole quarantine thing. I'm not advocating leaving home because you're not supposed to, but if you can, or if you own a big tract of land, go out to the back of your property and lift some stones there.
Yeah, I went for a walk the other day because I could see some stones poking out in a field, and I was like, I wonder what these stones are like.
Start digging them out. It's bad. When my wife and I went on that walk the other day around the lake, every time I'd come around the corner, I'd look in someone's backyard. And one time I actually saw a big pile of stones, and I'm like, oh, wonder what they're going to do with those. They look like they've been sitting there a while. Maybe they don't want all of them.
Yeah, my wife makes fun of me because for a while, when I drive by places, I'll be like, ooh, they have some nice stones.
Yeah.
They're so good.
It's like that when you buy a new car, you buy one, you're like, oh, I don't see too many of these, and then all of a sudden you see it everywhere.
Everyone has that car.
Yeah, you got stones on the mind right now, and I'm seeing them fucking everywhere we go. I'm like, well, that's a really big rock. Holy cow. Who says that? Strongmen. We do.
Yeah.
Oh my.
So how do you guys think that this is gonna affect, the pro ranks of strongman and stuff like that? Like, I feel like, obviously, I'm sure you guys feel the same, but that it's gonna really make for some awesome and interesting competitions because everybody's gonna be able to rest up
Not just
get
rest
themselves on
up.
point.
Like, it's going to be pretty obvious what the first competition is. Once everything is cleared up, it's going to be really obvious what the first competition that's not canceled is going to be. And
do you think everybody jumps on that one?
I think more people jump on it than normally would have. I think that every pro strongman is going to be at the first show. I think every single person jumps at that first show, almost no matter what it is. Odds are, I think Europe's strongest man, but it's still shaky. That one I think is late April, so I'm still not sure.
Because I work in the field of sports news. For anybody who doesn't know, I work up at ESPN, and we've got nothing to talk about. There are no sports happening damn near anywhere. I think
nobody's doing
MMA
anything.
is like the only one. They did that one fight in Brazil with no audience. I think they might be doing another one. But other than that, there's really nothing happening. And so now I'm wondering who is going to be the very first federation that's going to pull the trigger and be like, okay, we feel confident enough we can make this happen. We're going to make this show.
It's not going to be any. They have to wait for the federal government. They have to wait for a government.
Not only that, but then you also have to if you want to be the first one, you got to be aggressive with the date that you put out, but you also got to give these guys enough time to prepare for your show, because you don't want a fiasco like World's Strongest Man last year, where the guys didn't get the events until a couple weeks right before. That's BS for the athletes. That's not right, and you can't have that. But do you think that
Strongest Man has moved? So that's in August now.
I guess so.
Yeah, that's. I think it's confirmed that one is moved.
Which one was that?
You got to get
World's Strongest Man.
The actual finals.
Europe's Strongest Man's moved to August. So the European one is moved to August. Europe's Strongest Man's moved to August.
Giants
Live have confirmed that.
So then they got to get all their qualifiers in between now and then, right? That's the idea, because nobody's done any qualifiers for this year, except for the only people that are guaranteed a spot are last year's champs, right? Like
they're not even guaranteed.
Martins. Doesn't Martins get a spot?
Martins is the only one guaranteed a spot. It used to be that if you made it to the final, you're guaranteed a spot in the qualifier. That is not how it works this year. If you made it to the final, you're not guaranteed a spot in the qualifier, but I think Giants Live is doing more qualifiers this year than they've ever done before in America. So I think the American athletes will have a chance to qualify for World's Strongest Man before it actually happens.
I hope so, because
they're going to send out
in August, and they're talking about 2 months of quarantine. That doesn't give those guys a whole lot of time to hit a qualifying show and then re-peak for August.
No, but I think this year, because of how early it was, they weren't qualified. I think they were going to send out a ton of invitations to American athletes, because technically, I think the guy who won the North American Championships for Giants Live, Evan Singleton. He's the only one who technically qualified for World's Strongest Man.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. I know he did. Yeah, he won that show.
Yeah, so he's the only one who technically qualified, because the Americans didn't really do any Giants Live shows this year. They went to a couple of them, but there wasn't a large showing for Americans at Giants Live shows this year. In fact, I know Trey Mitchell specifically didn't even go to any shows because he thought he had an invite because he made it to the finals. But they also told him not to worry about it. So we still don't know even what the first event is going to be. I think once we know, and I think Cory's right, if they're aggressive with the dates and they're kind of push the government, I think that'll be the first show that they can get the athletes to, and I think that'll be the biggest show of the year.
Do you think they still do the log lift championships?
No. Well, yes, but not at the same date. I think they'd still do it at Europe's Strongest Man, just whenever they make Europe's Strongest Man.
I was really excited to see what Rob was going to put up.
Yeah, me too.
I hate that this got postponed. Same with Thor's 501.
I was kind of excited to see what O'Hurst could do, because he's only been training overhead press and log all year. He hasn't even competed. He's only been, and he hasn't really put out a lot of training videos either, or like personal bests, or really he hasn't shown what he's been doing. even though I think he's capable of doing more than he's done.
You know who this helps out? I was just thinking about it. Big Laws.
Yeah.
This
It
gives
really
him
does.
a chance for everybody to kind of keep doing their thing and him to keep getting better, keep getting healthier, keep getting stronger. Dude, thumbs up to him. I can't wait to see him back on the circuit competing again.
I love
hope it's
Lost.
soon.
He's
I
so
really
much fun
do.
to watch.
Yeah, his YouTube channel is awesome too. It was
Really,
fun to watch him
I love
grow
his
from
YouTube
like just
channel.
holding a camera in front of his face and just talking to like everything that they're doing now. It's great.
Yeah, I really like Lost. I feel like if he got injured less, he probably would have won World's Strongest Man earlier, like before at least once. I think he was stronger than Eddie Hall in a couple ways. Just he got injured so much. He never could stop from being injured long enough to compete at like multiple shows.
That's in the cards for some of these guys. Look at Shivlikov.
Look at Belshak.
Super strong.
Belshak is way younger than I thought he was, and
he's going to come back way better off this hip surgery, though. I mean, he's been hurting on this for a while. And
yeah, but it's
we're going to see a completely different Belshak after this.
It's hard for a strongman to come back from a hip replacement.
Yeah, but he's young and driven. I think he really wants it. I mean, look at how good he is right now with the busted shit hip. Give him something that's at least going to work and see what happens. Like, you watch him put in the work, you'll see. It'll happen.
Yeah, but the hip replacement will actually like outperform his bones. Like, I've seen hip replacements destroy people's like hip because they overtaxed it. And I mean,
he's been overtaxing his other hip to make up for it all this time, so hopefully that one will be strong enough to keep up.
Yeah.
I think that he doesn't. I don't think that Belshak goes to World's Strongest Man again. I think he does compete in strongman and do okay, but I don't think he competes at a national or a world-class level ever again.
I disagree. Greatly.
I do too. I think he gets his hip fixed and he shows up, and
there's a lot of dudes in those qualifiers too. Like even if you want to just play that as a safety net, there's a lot of guys in each one of those heats of qualifiers. What, 6 guys in 4 heats at least?
Yeah, but they're getting way stronger. All the pro strongmen are getting way stronger and catching up to the top pro guys faster and faster.
If I had pen and paper, I would write this down to remember this. But luckily, we're recording this.
Yes, like look at Bobby Thompson, won amateur Arnold's last year and actually competed at Arnold's this year. Novikov barely competed, even though he won the amateur when he competed as a pro. Bobby Thompson.
But to be fair, Novikov does a shitload of shows per year. Bobby Thompson did 2, maybe 3.
But that's how Novikov does things.
That's how the Canadians compete too. They compete on a very heavy duty circuit, so you got to factor that in there too. I mean, it's only fair.
Yeah, but even like
Bobby
Kowski didn't do as well his first Arnold's Pro show as Bobby Thompson did.
What were we going to say about Bobby, Keldo?
Bobby Thompson also said he was competing injured, so he done quite well. I think he had a torn bicep recently.
Yeah,
so he was competing injured at the Arnold's as well. 2 or 3 weeks, So, and they showed the bruising, and obviously most of that was covered up because it was taped up because you couldn't see anything that wasn't SPD sponsored. Or Rogue sponsored, sorry.
Even though we all know he was wearing Cerberus products. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody that's into strongman, we know what the equipment looks like. You don't have to blur it out. We're all adults here.
Not just that, like in golf, even though Nike is like one of the main sponsors, they don't blur out the Adidas sponsored players. Like, you're allowed to show other sponsors, even if they're not the title sponsor.
That's just Rogue being super petty.
Well, like that's just like you're the organization that runs it. You do have that choice. You made that decision. You don't. It's not like a company above you is like, no, you should blur that out. No, you made that.
I hope they at least supplied the tape. Fine tape to cover up the logos on my equipment. I just look at them and go, I am so much bigger than you. Just say it very calmly, look them right dead in the eye. No.
But I also think that in general, strongman is becoming more competitive, and I think that the world-class level is going to be even higher and higher, and it's going to be even harder and harder for people to get to. And that's the thing. Like, I think Belshak at 100% right now with no hip injury is world-class strength. With a hip replacement, I don't think he ever gets back to that level. That's my take on Belshak. And don't get me wrong, I love Belshak, and I think he's one of the nicest strongmen that I've ever seen compete, as well as one of the driven. But he's just, it's hard to come back from an injury like that.
I really think what you're trying, the point you're putting across is that he's now going to be so much behind on his training while the rest of these guys progress. So Belshak then has to take 6 to 9 months minimum out where hip replacement, and then plays catch up to all these guys who are now reaching levels that he should be still at. I can see what you're saying about him saying obviously not getting back to that level.
Well, not just that, he's also not at that top class level because he's injured right now. He hasn't been able to train at the really highest level, so he's already kind of below what he should be just if he was training normally, but he can't train normally because he's injured. So I think that compounded with the rehab time for a hip replacement, compounded with the catch-up time that he would have to do, I don't know if he'll ever be able to compete again at a world-class level.
There's a lot of growth hormone and peptides out there. I don't know. We're seeing these NFL players come back from knee injuries that usually take you out for a year, and like 5 months, they're back.
Yeah, but NFL players are
using those ligaments and knees in a much more dynamic fashion than a strongman.
Yes, but the NFL doesn't care what happens to them after they're done.
These guys don't care about what happens to themselves after they're done either. They want that trophy, dude.
Yeah,
that's all they're in it for, trophy and whatever little bit of money they can get out of it. Squeeze the juice.
An NFL player, if he gets hurt enough, and he's not a big name player, the big name players, they'll pay whatever to get them healed. But if he's not a big name player, the same injury would take him completely out of the NFL. Like Rob Gronkowski blows his ACL, and he's out for knee surgery for a year or so, whatever. Some second string tight end blows out his ACL. The NFL is not paying for his surgery. They're going to kick him the fuck out. Or if they do pay for his surgery, they're not going to.
I'm pretty sure the players' union has the collective bargaining agreement that they would pay for stuff like that. They've got.
Yeah, but then just kick him out because he wouldn't ever go through the proper rehab because he wouldn't be able to afford it because Rob Gronkowski can afford a ton of rehab. I'm
pretty sure the teams have to pay for that stuff. Like their team doctors, their team rehab centers. That I don't know. I don't buy that. I don't think that's true.
I'll let it go because
they're investing in these players. They may not be investing at the same level, but they're still making an investment and planning a future out with these players in mind.
The history of CTE and NFL players begs to differ that question. But we will move on because this isn't an NFL podcast. But what I was
coming back.
He is. I think he comes back to. I think he'll get back to that level. I do think it's going to take him some time, though. He's gonna need. He'll need the extra time, but to Cory's point, I think he'll have all the right supplements to get back to what he needs to be at.
And let me just flesh out my point is that you just made such a broad statement saying he would never get back to world's class strength. That's what I'm arguing. I'm not arguing that he's going to come back to the world's strongest man and win first place. I'm not saying he's going to go to Europe's strongest and win Europe's strongest. But you can't just throw a statement out there like he'll never get back to world class strength. That's not true.
I think he makes the Arnold. He'll make the Arnold again, which is the top 10 guys. I think he does that. I don't think
he ever. That's the whole thing. I don't think he ever makes the Arnold again because for every Belshak is. I think I have a message. Just a second. 1992, so 28. Belshak is 28. Novikov is like 23. For every Novikov, there's 3 others that could be Novikov in like almost every strongman country. I think that the talent of strongmen coming up is what prevents Belshak from ever reaching world class. Not him, not his own strength, not his own drive. The strongmen that are coming up and competing against him is what's going to keep him from that world class level. That's what I'm saying.
I think you're just upset, and maybe he just didn't sign your shorts one time or something at a show. Like, you are hating on him so much without trying to hate on him right now. I feel so bad for him. I felt bad for him at the Arnold because I had him taking last place in every event, and he totally proved me wrong. So let me just go ahead and just give him one of these because I thought you were going to take last in a couple of those events, like the frame carry and a few others, and you did not. Good on you, buddy.
I didn't think he was going to take last in every event.
I did. I'm just owning being wrong on that because I was definitely way wrong.
But like I see the talent coming up in strongman, and it's just there's so much, and there's so many strong guys that are coming up that it's hard to say that like. Well, and I would say it's kind of like any professional sports now, where you have to be the guy that doesn't get injured more than you have to be the guy that's strongest. You have to be the guy that doesn't get injured for the longest time. And if you do get injured, they're not serious injuries. I think that's what's gonna be make strongmen the best. The best ones are gonna be the ones that can go the longest without getting injured. And I think that is going to be the main thing. And I think there's so many strongmen now that the numbers are just getting bigger and harder to compete with. But there's a couple other strongmen I would say the same thing about. But there's also other divisions that they can compete in. Strongman Champions League, World's Ultimate Strongman, they are taking a lot of the pros, but I don't see that lasting, like Cory has said before. I don't see that lasting super long time, but they could still be a smaller strongman circuit. Then you have Giants Live, then you have the Arnold, which is a whole other American strongman circuit almost exclusively because of just Americans don't have a strongman circuit, even though we have Strongman Corporation in America, and there's so many.
The Arnold goes everywhere. They do South Africa, they do Australia. They get around.
But they do more American shows than any of the worldwide strongman corporations.
Just the one in Santa Monica and
the one in Ohio.
Yeah.
World's Strongest Man does one, and if they have World's Strongest Man in America, it's the second one. They usually only have one U.S. Yes. For the second year in a row, which is also cool. But
I believe they were also having an event in an arena too, aren't they? Aside from World's Strongest Man, I thought they were doing another.
They're doing an arena tour in America. According to Julian Howard, they're starting up a arena tour in the U.S. for Giants Live.
Which
would be Giants Live.
Mm-hmm.
Giants Live is trying to get into America in a big way.
They could do it too. We just need all of our brethren in strongman in the United States to embrace it and go see it.
Yeah, and also I think
the American show was meant to be in Florida in August. That's when the Giants Live was meant to be, was Florida in August. So they definitely have one scheduled, but again, it's how it gets pushed back when everything's rescheduled now.
Yeah, it's going to be. We can't. It's so hard to predict anything. It's so hard to make anything about the future right now. It's annoying.
Yeah,
it's obviously because you're going to have to you've got the World's Ultimate Strongman, where Thor's 501's coming. You've got the Giants Live Tour is all going to be massively compressed. Plus you've got Worlds, and then you've got the Arnold qualifiers. So it could effectively, these guys could be going once every 3 weeks.
And you've also got the World's Ultimate Strongman circuit that they're trying to set up too. I mean, these guys are going to split on a lot of different ways.
So I think that I really I hope they take this time to kind of talk to the other strongman circuits and maybe develop some sort of schedule, because they actually the other sport I play, disc golf, they actually had 2 separate pro tour circuits. And they came together and were like, hey, how can we make this easier on the players? And they talked their schedules, they looked over their schedules, and they made sure there weren't any like competing events. So everybody has an equal chance to play every event. But they also made it so some players could skip certain events if they wanted to focus on another event that was the next week, or they made it a lot easier. And I think strongman could do that too if they would talk to each other, but they don't.
I don't know if it's as cut and dry with that as it is with, like, say, disc golf, because disc golf you don't have to peak for, you just go play. But like these guys have to take 4 to 6 weeks or more, depending on the athlete, to peak for a show, and then you've got, say, 4
the turnaround time
to
is
try
much
to fit everything
faster.
in. That's going to be really hard.
Yeah, but I think that even within the pro strongman circuits exclusively, Giants Live, Arnold's, and World's Ultimate Strongman now, if they just talk to each other, they could make it a little easier on them. But they don't. They schedule things at the same time. Like World's Ultimate Strongman scheduling the Dubai show for right around the same time as Europe's Strongest Man.
That's because they're all trying to vie to be like, they're trying to be the biggest of the biggest. Like, they're all trying to be the next world's strongest man.
But that's dumb.
Not world's strongest man.
Let Giants Live. They're world's strongest man. They've been world's strongest man since there's been a world's strongest man. It's
free enterprise, man. They want their piece of the pie. They're seeing people are engaged in strongman, and it's becoming bigger, and everybody wants money. It's a great
on the money aspect. On the money aspect, you only need to look at what they done with the 501 deadlift, where it was, all right, World Ultimate Strongman, we're going to give you 100,000, and then Rogue went, oh really? We'll give you 101,000.
Yep.
So on the subject of money, you can see exactly where they're going with that. There's no chance of these people sitting down and talking to each other when all they want is somebody to pull something massive with their logo in the background. That's all they want. Everybody's seen the Eddie Hall picture with the blood coming down the nose and looking at the logo in the background. Rogue want that. World's Ultimate Strongman want that. They want something massive with their logo in the background. That's all that matters. That's all that matters to them. Putting the athletes through a grueling schedule isn't what matters to them right now. It's about getting their face and their brand looking like, we've done that. We're now the pinnacle of the sport.
I think that's detrimental.
We're where it's at.
I feel like that's detrimental to the athletes, though, and that's not fair. Like,
they're not thinking of the athletes, man. I think that's the point. It's the almighty dollar, dude.
Yeah, they're thinking of themselves and themselves only. That's why it's hard on the athletes.
Anytime you have a niche sport, the athletes kind of get shit on because it's kind of expected that if you want to compete in this sport, you have to do it for the right reason. And so you can't make money because that's the wrong reason. And I think a lot of niche sports suffer from that. The athletes they're just happy to play, which is good. And that's a really good thing because the athletes don't really care that much and it prevents a lot of drama. But it also creates a lot of drama. It's really hard to travel and go compete when you can't afford to travel and go compete. Some of the shows, I think, World's Ultimate Strongman and Giants Live will pay for your travel. Arnold's doesn't. That kind of stuff, that kind of little expenses add up really fast.
I know
one of them doesn't pay for it. I don't remember.
Doesn't pay for your flight, but they help you with the hotel. Like it's the rates were a lot when I was looking at going with Rob and them. The rates were pretty cheaper than everybody else is going to be paying. So they're not giving stuff away, but they're helping them out with a lot of different things. Like these bigger shows will do that. The problem with it is, like what Keldo is saying, is it really boils down to the fact that there's only so many of the really top guys. And they're only going to do so many shows a year, including the one that they want to qualify for, which is World's Strongest Man and the Arnold. So you got to factor those as 2 shows that those guys are already planning on doing. And then they're probably only hoping to do maybe 1 qualify for each one of them and winning and getting in. So you're competing for the top 5 to 10 guys, 2 shows that they want to do that year, and then hoping that they qualify for your final in those 2 shows. Other guys will do more because they're lower, and that's what they need to do to get up there.
The
good guys that these guys want to say that they're, we're the shit, we're the best federation out there because we've got this guy and this guy and this guy, they're vying for very few dudes. So it's going to be competitive always.
Well, if you've all have watched old school World's Strongest Man in history, like a bunch of the World's Strongest Man in the past. What it always comes down to is you always end up having 10 guys originally, and you have 4 or 5, or maybe 3 that are actually competing, like really competing against the top guy in every event. And I think that's kind of how strongman has been for so long. And I think that's kind of how the shows just always play out. There's always like every event, you have 4 or 5 guys that have a chance of winning, kind of. And then you have the rest of the guys that will mess up the points in kind of the middle, but really aren't going to threaten
specialists. Exactly. Yeah, you've got a few guys that are consistent like Martins, and then you've got the specialists that come in and steal
like Jerry
on one event. Yeah.
And so I think that is kind of the nature of strongman, and I think that that's what the shows kind of play to. They play to 4 really fucking strong guys competing against 6 specialists. And you kind of, I don't know. I see your point, and I see that strongman kind of favors that on its own. Like that kind of format without anybody interfering. So I think I would agree with you. That's kind of the nature of strongman competition. And even when like in local strongman comps, you really only have 3 or 4 guys that could win. And then you have 6 or 7 guys that could really, depends on the size of the field, but guys that could compete in any event or just shake up the points near the top. And then you have a couple guys who aren't going to probably zero a few events, maybe shake up the points on some others. So I don't know. It's an interesting point.
I think the way strongman and how competitive in nature it goes the whole way to the top of the federations, which is why the communication between the federations is a pipe dream that I don't know that is possible to happen, because it's competitive from the top down is the
it doesn't have to be that level of like, I don't know, petty competitiveness. Like, because strongman competitors, they compete, but they're not, I don't know, they're more sportsmanlike about it than the federations are.
Because they're not making the money that the federations are. They're not trying to strike the deals that the federations are. These guys are all a bunch of buddies trying to lift against each other.
Well, that's also, really I do understand.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The guys that are the guys that are competing are all for each other. Yes. You can see that, and it's the same as you say about local shows. You spend that much time out there cheering for the opposition. That the last couple of times I've competed, I've forgot about warming up because I'm too busy cheering for everybody around about me. Yeah. And you're like, oh, when I'm on, you're like, oh, you've got 2 to go. You're like, I've not even got my tacky ready. And you're sitting trying to mould tacky onto your hands for Atlas stones because you've been too busy cheering everybody around about you. And that's the federation, the people who are running the contest, and you can see how far removed they are from the athletes at times as well, given how little notice some of them get for what events are coming up. I mean, what was it, 3 weeks, 4 weeks they got for the World's events last year? And I get that you want to be the best all-round, well-rounded athletes and everything. But on the other hand, if you want to put on the best show, give the guys the events that they need to do with maybe 8 weeks notice, and give them a time to run into the contest where they can then put on the best show possible.
Yeah.
So I think with that said,
go ahead.
We should probably try to bring it back to home training and wrap this up, because I believe that we've been going for a little over an hour.
Yeah. We kind of rambled, but we talked about a lot of stuff that what's affecting strongmen right now. Exactly. Home training, get some bands, and get creative.
And pick up stones.
Yeah, pick up stones. Pick up anything heavy. That if you took anything away from this podcast today, I hope that you took lift heavy shit with you, and also be as creative as you possibly can, because there are all kinds of things that on the other side of this camera that are not weights that I could be lifting that are just as heavy as anything behind me. So
I got grippers. There's some grippers right here that like take a full man to close with hands. Like,
So go find yourself another man and grip things together. That's what you can do. So I hope you guys really enjoyed our episode of Embrace the Way today and embracing the strength in quarantine. Go find yourself some strength implements and have fun with them.
That's right.
I don't hate Matt Chaz Belshak, by the way. I love him. I have my thoughts. Thank you all for tuning in. It was awesome.
Good time, everyone. Cheers.
Uh,
Later.